as for the class, property, argument or method. So, the list of important decorators in Angular is @component, it is a function. So, we have to add the brackets ng module pipe injectable inject. These are the important list of decorators. Let us try to understand each one. First one is @component. This decorator specifies that the class is a component class. Assume we have created an ordinary class. How do we say this particular class is a component class? This is not an ordinary class. I would like to say it is a component class. We can say it is a component class by using something called @component. We have to keep the @component just above the class. There is a class. Above the class, we have to add @component to say that this class is a component class. The following class is a component class. That is the meaning of @component. If you do not add the @component, the class remains as a normal class. If you add @component, the class is a component class. That is the difference. So, check the syntax. We have class name. In order to convert the class as a component class, we have to add something called @component brackets. We have to keep the decorator above the class, which means that which specifies that this class is a component class. So, similarly, we have something called ng module. This decorator specifies that the class is a module class. To specify that it is a module, we have to use @ng module. We will discuss more about the modules later. The third one, @pipe. If you want to create your own pipe, we have to use @pipe. About the pipes also we will discuss later. To say that your class is a component, we have to keep @component. To say your class is a module, we have to add @ng module. To say that it is a pipe, we have to use @pipe. About modules and pipes we will discuss later. The next one, @injectable. In order to say your class is a service class, we have to add @injectable. There is no decorator called @service, but we have to use injectable for the service class. About the services also we will discuss in the further lessons. The last and final one, inject. This decorator specifies the dependency injection. When we will discuss about the services in future, I will explain about the @inject also. And this @inject is applicable only for the constructor parameter. Only we can take a constructor. There we have to give @inject, service class name, followed by parameter name, colon service class name as a data type, then constructor open, constructor close. This is a syntax for service class development. So, we will discuss about the services, dependency injection, pipes and modules later in the further lessons. But as of now, we are clearly know that what is a component. A component is a class that defines the programming logic of the certain area of your application. Earlier we have created a login form. So, in order to represent the programming logic of the login form, we have created a login component which include essential properties, methods, constructors, etc. Whereas actual design logic should be in the HTML file, actual programming logic should be in the TS file. Next, so we have understood the component which is already present here. Also, we have understood @ng module, which means that we are creating a module. But what are all these things like a declarations, imports, providers, bootstrap here, and here selector, template URL, style URLs, animations, and host. These properties are called metadata. Metadata is a object literal that can be written inside the decorator. So, let us understand what is metadata. Metadata is additional details about the particular decorator. For example, we are saying that so and so ABC is the name of the person. By profession, he is a doctor. For example, here doctor is an example of decorator, but I want to specify his specialization, his experience, etc. These are additional details about his profession. These details are called metadata. So, to specify the class behavior, we have to use a decorator. To say more deeper details about that, we have to use metadata. Always this metadata will be written inside the decorator. First, we have to use the decorator. Inside the decorator, we have to add the metadata for more clarity, for more details. So, but the metadata will be differ for every decorator. It is not like same metadata for all the decorators. That means the metadata of the component is different. The metadata of decorators modules is different. The metadata of inject is different. Every decorator has its own metadata. So, metadata is written as object literal. The object literal contains a set of properties with respect to values. Already we have discussed about object literals in the JavaScript lessons. So, this object is a metadata which is written inside the decorator. The object literal cannot be written outside the decorator. So, it has no meaning outside. So, most of the metadata properties contain the string data type. Most of the properties data type is string. So, let us try to understand the metadata of the component first. So, metadata of component meaning is what? We are trying to provide some additional details about the component. So, if this is the component, component is a decorator. This object what you can see inside the brackets is represented as metadata. It includes selector, template URL, style URLs, animations, and host. Let us understand one by one. The first one, selector. It specifies that the tag name with which you can access or invoke the component. Assume we have created a component and we are invoking the component with the help of a tag. The tag can be represented as a selector. I will show the practicality of this. For example, inside the home component, you would like to display the login component. So, what we will do is that go to the home component template, where exactly you want to display the login form component, we have to use something called app-login, which means that in this place the login form should be appear. So, if you can compile and execute, inside the home we can see the login form. But how it is possible? How this login form is displayed inside the home? The reason first home component is invoked because the URL is a /home as per the routing already we have discussed. Inside that we have written something called app-login. So, which means that this app-login will automatically invoke the login component. But how that app-login is connected to this particular login component? The reason selector. Whatever we have given, that will be registered as a tag name. With the same tag name, somewhere anywhere we can call that particular component. Here we have registered app-login as a selector. With that particular tag name, we are going to invoke the same in the home component. We can invoke the same multiple times by using the same selector. Now, we can expect 3 times the login is going to be appear. Let me place in every div tag. We are able to invoke the same any number of times. So, we are invoking a number of times. So, in this way, okay, let me remove the animation. So, we are invoking the same 3 times, right. So, we are invoking 3 times, that means because 3 times we have written the selector. Each time it will go to the particular component, it will automatically create an object for the component class, then go to the template. The output result of the template is going to appear here. That happens 3 times, as we have invoked 3 times, we can use it any number of times. So, overall what I want to say exactly, the selector is the name of the tag with which you want to call it. In case if you want to change, we can change. For example, instead of app-login, I want to change it as my login. We have to use the same name for all the corresponding tags. Everywhere we have to use the my login now instead of app-login. So, my login will invoke all the login components. That is all. We have understood what is the selector. Secondly, we have template URL. Template URL specifies the HTML file which contains the template of the component. By definition, every component is a class. It is just a program, collection of some programming statements which includes the properties and methods which define the programming logic of your application. Every component must be associated to any one template. So, there is a component means definitely sure that the component is having a corresponding template, because without template the component is not a component at all. The component must contain the template. But how the connection happens between the component and template? Component is present in .ts file, template is present in .html file. How the connectivity happens? That is exactly by using template URL property. The template URL property specifies so and so this is a HTML file which is associated to this particular component. So, we have to specify the name of the HTML file that contains the template. So, the template will be connected or binded to the corresponding component. So, let us check here. Here in our example, we have something called login.component.html. This file name is mentioned here, but in order to represent the current working folder, we have to use /. / refers to the current working folder, and also we have something called style URLs. The meaning of style URLs specifies the CSS file names. Notice it can be one or more. So, the third property is the style URLs. It specifies the list of CSS files that are associated to the component. So, while executing our components, what CSS files needs to be loaded, the list of CSS files can be mentioned in the style URLs property. Notice it is array type. So, we can mention multiple CSS files. Usually in normal situations, one component will have only one CSS file, but in case if you require, you can write n number of CSS files, multiple CSS files can be written. Generally one is enough for one component, and the file name also will be like the component name dot component dot CSS. For example, home dot component dot CSS. This is the naming convention for the CSS file name. So, in the style URLs, in the square brackets, that means in the array brackets, we have to mention the name of the CSS file. So, in our example, we have seen login dot component dot CSS. That means this login component is connected to this login dot component dot CSS and will be automatically loaded into the browser whenever we have invoked the login component. And next part is that animations. Animation, it specifies the list of animations that are to be loaded into the browser, into the component. So, for your component, what animations needs to be occur, the list of animations can be mentioned here. These are the important metadata properties of your component. Next, let us discuss about the metadata of module. So, just have a look at once. We have something called app.module.ts. So, here is a module. The name of the module is app module. How do you say it is a module? There is a class. It is having a decorator called @ng module, means definitely the class is a module class, or simply it is a module. The word module class is not correct. So, good word, it is a module. How do you create a module? Just make a class, because every module is a class. Above the class, we have to add @ng module. So, basically without all this additional information, it is look like this basically. But as I want to provide so many details about the particular module, we have to add this metadata. This metadata specifies what components are the members of this module, what services you want to import, what modules you want to import, and which component is a startup component. So, let us understand the metadata properties of your module. So, metadata of module. So, basically what is a module before than that? Module is a group of components. So, assume you have a large application having several types of components, for example, registration form component, login form component, and check email component, compose email component, products search component, and order product component. We have 6 components. So, all these components are not in the same category. I want to divide them into multiple groups. So, there should be some tool or predefined mechanism in order to group them. The best way to group the components, that module. So, we must place them inside any one module, but instead of placing all of them inside a single module, we have to place them into, we have to divide them into multiple modules. Just like the globe is divided into multiple countries, we have a large application having so many components, we have to group up the components by using module. So, a big application is a collection of modules. Modules are used to divide, group of the components. So, here in our example, registration form component, login form component, both are present under one module, maybe suitable name user account module. Check email and compose email, these two are related to mailing. So, mailing module we have to create. Under the mailing module, these two are the components. and products search component and order the product. These two are the components that are members of the products module. Like that we can group up the components by using module. If you do not add the modules, what happens? The application may be cumbersome, confusing. So, let us try to understand how to write the metadata of your module. In the metadata, we have to write the list of components that are members of the current working module. We are not going to talk about all the modules at the same time. At one moment, we can talk about only one module. So, in this current working module, which are the members of the component? The component must be a member of any one module. The component can be maximum of member of only one module. The same component cannot be the member of multiple modules. The component must be a member of any one module. Then only it will execute. So, first one is declarations. Declarations means list of components that you want to make them as a members of the module. So, let us check it out. We have the first one declarations. It specifies list of components that are members of the current module. So, in this module, which are the members? These modules: app component, home component, about, contact, registration and login. And also, right now I want to create one more module and I want to make the registration component and login component as a separate module, just for grouping purpose. In order to create a new module, go to your command prompt window, cd := Angular 3 pm app1 ng. We are going to create a module called user account. Here ng means Angular, G for generate. What you are going to generate? Module you are going to generate. Name of the module is user account. User account will be actual name of the module. So, as of now, two files we have got, that is user account module.ts and user account module.spec.ts. So, in the user account module, we are able to create the necessary components. First, it has created a folder called user-account. In this user account module, in the folder, we have user account module.ts. Here first we have to import registration component from registration/registration.component.ts and login component from login/login.component. So, in the declaration section, we have to specify the list of components that are members of the current module. In our example, it is registration form component and login form component. And also inside this registration and login, we are using the ng model, right? ng model must require forms module. So, we have to import the forms module too. Then we have to remove the registration module and the login module in the app module. Now, these registration and login are no longer the members of app module. So, we can also remove them here. Okay, but now we are getting errors saying that login form or registration form are undefined, because the reason we have to export the registration and login components from this user account module, then only we can import them in the app module. Finally, we are invoking all the components in the app module. So, we have to add one more option called exports. What components you want to export? Registration component and login component, both you want to export. So, once we have mentioned these two, and also we have to import the user account module in the app module. So, in the import section we have to specify the name user account module. First we have to import user account module class from the so and so folder, and then we have to add the same to the import section of your app module. Then it is showing some error saying that my login is an Angular component. So, my login is not imported. Let me import it here. Okay, let's check my login. Where is that my login? Yes, my login, and we are exporting here. Okay, and then we have to import it here. Yes, what is the problem? Let me check. My login, the error is my login is not a known element, it is saying. Okay, first we have to specify the declarations. That means, what are the list of components that are members of the user account module must be mentioned here, and then we have to specify the same whichever you want to export to the other modules. We have to export the same. We are exporting registration form component and login form component. Both of these components we are exporting, and this user account module must be imported in the app module. First import the browser module, then we have to import user account module. Let me stop this application and rerun. We have given ngserve command again. It is just compiling this application and starting the application. By default, Angular live development server will be open, and it is going to be compiling and then running. Okay, now it is working. And another error is that if ng model is used within a form tag, either name attribute must be set or form control must be defined as standalone. So, the reason for this error is we have to go to the login.component.html. There in the login.component.html, wherever we are giving ng model, there we have to add name. Once we have added the name, automatically that error is going to be clear. So, now all the errors are clear. Now, we are able to execute our application correctly. Okay, that is fine. So, what you can understand from this module, a module consists of some metadata. First one is declarations. Declarations means a list of components that are members of the module. In the app module, these are the members: app component, home component, about component, contact component. In the user account module, these are the members: registration component and login component. The next one, exports. It specifies the list of components that you are exporting to other modules. Assume there are multiple modules. There is a module 1, module 2 for example. In the module 1, we have component 1 and component 2, and I want to use both of these components in component 3 and component 4 respectively. That means, component 3 is willing to call component 1, component 4 is willing to call component 2, and this component 3 and 4 are the members of the module 2. So, we have module 1 has component 1 and 2, module 2 has component 3 and 4, component 3 wants to call component 1, component 4 wants to call component 2. In this example, the module 1 wants to give or export or expose this component 1 and 2 to the other module, whereas module 2 is importing module 1 only. So, automatically it has rights to access the component 1 and 2, because component 1 and 2 already exported by the module 1. So, I will give a simple real world illustration for this. So, I am having 10 books and I want to give my 5 books to you. Here I am a module 1, you are module 2. I am having 10 books, that means in the declaration section 10 books are available, but only the first 5 books I want to export to you. You have to import me, that means that whichever I have exported you will be able to use them. So, for example, I am willing to give book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, these 5 books are accessible with you. First you should subscribe to me, that means you should access me, then whatever I am providing you will be able to access. So, the same exactly happening here. Module 1, module 2 imports module 1, that means whichever exported in the module 1 are by default imported into module 2. So, in our example we are given the exports keyword, that means the list of components that you are exporting to other modules. What components will be available to other modules, the list can be mentioned in the exports. So, in the exports we have to specify the list of components that you are exporting to other modules. So, for example, in our example we are exporting registration component and login component from here to other modules. So, in any module wherever we are importing user account module, there itself these 2 components are available or accessible there. So, imports, it specifies the list of modules that you are importing. It specifies the list of modules that you are importing. Which one you are importing, that list can be mentioned here. So, okay. So, here we have just mentioned imports. We have imported the browser module, user account module, forms module, router module, browser animations module, all these modules we have imported. So, whichever the modules you want to import we can mention here, only modules not components, because once we have imported a module, whatever the components already exported there, all of them will be imported indirectly. Directly we cannot import a component, we can import a module only, but in that module whichever exported those will be imported automatically in your module. The next part is bootstrap. Here bootstrap is not the library which what you have learned already. Here the bootstrap means the startup module, startup component. It specifies the name of the component that you want to, startup component that you want to start executing automatically. So, some component should be the startup module, startup component. Among so many components, which should be the startup, that startup name can be mentioned here. So, by default we have home component, about contact, about component, contact component and app component, which should be started by default app component. This is the total app component output only, right? Inside the app component, of course, we are invoking home, but overall this complete outline is presented by the app component. So, app component only the bootstrap, and only one component can be the bootstrap, cannot be multiple. So, we can specify only the single component name, we can specify only one component name as bootstrap component. The next one, providers. It specifies the list of components, list of services that you are importing in the current module. So, about the services we will discuss in detail later, but whenever we have imported a service, that service can be called in the any component of the current working module. In this module, for example, we have these components. In these components, you want to call some predefined or user defined services. The list of services must be imported, must be specified in the provider section. So, these are the different properties of the module. So, we have understood declarations. Declarations means what components are the members of the module, that a list of components are the declarations. Exports means the list of components that you are exporting. Imports means which modules you are importing. Bootstrap means a startup component. Providers means list of services. So far we have understood the list of or meaning of decorators. Now, let us try to understand the meaning of something called directives. So, the directives means the predefined classes that do some manipulation on the HTML elements. For example, I am going to use some HTML tag. For this HTML tag, I want to do some additional process. I want to apply some condition against it. I want to apply some looping for it. I want to write a switch case for it. So, to apply some conditions for the particular HTML tag, we have to use the directives. So, let us try to understand the predefined directives of Angular. So, list of directives of Angular. Ngif, ng for, ng class. Okay, these are the three important directives of Angular: ngif, ng class, and ng for. So, let us try to understand each one. First one, mainly we will focus on ng for, ngif as of now. So, what is ngif? It is used to check a condition and display the HTML tag only if the condition is true. Whenever the condition is true, then only you would like to display the particular element, but particular HTML tag. Then we have to use ngif. So, in our example, so we have two messages. Okay, otherwise I will take some more other HTML tag. For example, home component will take. Okay, so here we have something called a property. For example, we have some student marks. Student marks is equal to 80. I want to check whether the student result is pass or fail. So, the condition is student pass is going to be Boolean value. So, I am going to check if student is pass, student marks is greater than or equal to 80, then this dot student pass is equal to true, otherwise this dot student pass equal to false. My goal is that if the student is pass, then only I would like to display some message for him. If the student is fail, I want to display other message. So, in the home component, we are going to have a div tag. Okay, I am removing these many login forms. Here the requirement is I want to display the one message for student pass, other message for student fail. So, I want to display student is pass, congratulations. I want to display this message only when the student pass is equal to true. So, star ngif is equal to student pass. If the student is fail, I want to display the message better luck next time. the condition is true, this message will be appear. If the condition is false, this message will be appear. So, presently condition is true, that is why it is going to show congratulations. If the condition is false, for example, I am going to make the marks as a 20 and the pass marks is 35. So, presently the student is failed, so it is showing the message better luck next time. So, this ngIf is meant for displaying the information conditionally. Okay, I will explain about this ng class and ng for later. So, overall in the today's lesson we have understood decorators. The decorators are the special functions that apply some special behavior or special characteristics about the class, property or method. Metadata is the additional details about the decorator that can be written inside the decorator. Directives are the predefined classes that applies some condition or looping or switch case for the particular HTML tag. So, we have discussed about ngIf only. We will discuss about the ng class and ng for in the further lessons. So, that is all for today. We will understand more about the ng class and ng for later. So, thank you.